you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music. Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody's keeping well in the world right now.
Good morning, good evening, hello everyone. There is the first sighting of Matt Guy Jr. on our Twitter account. Very briefly, if you go and have a look at him, when he appeared around my house as Matt's way of getting him to sleep. And despite what anyone says, he's a charming little boy. And Matt's not bad either. Yeah, it was the first time I'd actually seen, because every time I've seen him a couple of times, he's always been asleep, and I think that was the idea this time. And then he wasn't asleep again. But his eyes was open, and he was great. So he's had his first interaction in the podcast cave.
Deary me, and he got out alive.
Yeah, exactly. unlike many others.
Super. Right, QuestionCast this week. We're starting off with a review of a film called The Moor. There we've got the QuestionCast, and then when we do Nicolas Cage-a-thon, we're going to be looking at Peggy Sue Got Married. But as I said, we're starting off with a film called The Moor, which it looks like it was supposed to be out last year. I think it premiered at Fright Fest originally, but it is going to be out in UK cinemas on the 14th of June, and then it's going to be available to digitally download from the 1st of July. So first things first, Stu, The Moor. Have you ever been to the Yorkshire Moors, or is this, because obviously you're on the fun bus quite a lot, so is this an area of the world you've ever spent any time in?
Not so much on the fun bus now, but bearing in mind you have to go through the Yorkshire Moors to get to my hallowed turf of Whitby. So,
right.
Yes, I very much have. And when we put it in, when I said that, I said, have you ever been up there? Because this is very, very accurate. It's a messed up, weird place up there. And like you drive through it and you are driving through the middle of nothing. There's nothing there. I mean, the amount of bodies that more than likely are buried there, the Ripper had it right there. We all know. And Pete Boggs and stuff is further across by Huddersfield way, so that from that sense, I drove through it. But if you go down to like Gotham and stuff like that, you go down these places and you can hike across it all. It's weird, man. It's got a kind of, there is a sensation about it all. And I mean, at time of recording, 55 days away from my return, Whitby people. But yeah, it's a very surreal, strange place, especially at night. I mean, even in the day, it's you very rarely see any other cars because it's just on like a single lane A road there and back. So you're very secluded. You're very isolated on your own. if you do break down, then you can imagine if you go wandering off, you can get in trouble. Let's put it that way. So when I realised that, I didn't know. Obviously, you said, "Oh, this is what we're doing this week," and I thought, "Okay, fine." So I put it on there. It opened with Yorkshire. I thought, "Oh yes, here we go." And then it developed. And I'm going to say intimately knowledgeable about the Yorkshire Moors, but I know more than any normal person from Wolverhampton should do.
I thought they did a fantastic job of representing that area of the world. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't know a great deal about it other than, like you say, podcasts on the Ripper and the Moors murders, but they really did give you a sense of, the filming could have been done 20 yards from the nearest road, but it felt like you were in the deepest, darkest areas of the world. You felt like they were very much, like you say, isolated. I think is a big theme throughout this entire film. And it did feel like they were isolated. I'm guessing they wouldn't have been because it would have been too dangerous to have done it. But they did a hell of a job representing that, I thought. The whole use of the smoke and clouds and everything coming down low across the moor, so they were lost in the in the sight of it. They didn't know where they were going. And it made it so eerie, so creepy. Not outright scary, but eerie, I think, is probably the word I would use best to describe the settings of this film. I thought they did an absolutely fantastic job with that.
Yeah. And eerie is spot on. I mean, I've said it before. I know when there's been years when I've gone to Whitby and my brother's gone to Spain or whatever. And I remember I think you went to the Dominican Republic the one year. And we've both been away for a week and I came back browner. And because it is she even mentions it, doesn't she? It's got a weird microclimate up there where things get trapped on the moors, and that's what happens there. Because you think, "Oh, why are you going to North Yorkshire every year and pissing about in the North Sea?" When actually it's not as cold as it should be, because it's got this weird catchment area where any kind of rain clouds get caught on the moors, and then the rest of the sunshine and everything's over the sea. So that is remarkably accurate, and I presume it's just smoke machines and a bit of wind going off how they managed to do it, but they got it spot on. The effect was superb.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the effects throughout the entire film. For what I assume must have been a shoestring budget, it didn't feel that. It felt almost, I'm going to say it felt Hollywood. Obviously, it's very British, but it felt big time the way they'd produced it. I was really, really impressed with it. So this film starts off with the kidnapping and murder of a boy, and then we jump in forward 25 years or so, where the girl who was around, the friend of the boy, is called back to the Yorkshire Moors to help the father of the boy find his body. It feels like it's just from that, it feels like we've seen that story a million times. It doesn't feel new, does it? If you'd have pitched this to me before, I thought, "Oh, I've seen this before. I've seen this a dozen times before." But I thought they did such a good job with it that it didn't feel trite, didn't feel convoluted. Like, the story, the basic skeleton of this does sound familiar, but actually everything within it wasn't familiar. And I think they did a tremendous job of presenting a tried and tested story in a new way. And I thought that was fantastic. The way they use multimedia probably isn't the right word, but obviously we had the normal ways of filming. We had the shots with the GoPro, which changed the recording of the voices and stuff. So there's that
really good, yeah.
You'll get, and then interspersed with that, they also had with her making a documentary about them trying to find this body. So is multimedia the right term, Stu? Because they were trying to hit different styles. And it was fantastic. I don't think I've seen that in big budget films. So for them to have got it right on a small budget, I thought was tremendous.
I think it's more like you'd say cross media than multimedia. It's the kind of buzzword nowadays. But yeah, it was. I think using a GoPro microphone as well was brave because they're not the best. And if that was an After Effects, then even better because it sounded spot on. But it worked. And found footage stuff, we've talked about Blair Witch before. But GoPro stuff, I can't remember seeing before. Not like this, where it's
Exactly.
where it's openly actually a GoPro strapped to someone's chest because they're filming it for that reason, and then using that footage in a film. It probably has been done before, but I've never seen it like this.
No, I completely agree. I think there probably has been with proper top-end ones that there's no drop-off in quality, but they made a point of it in this, and I think that added to it because you're watching it, rather than watching it third-hand that you are with a normal film, you're actually watching it first-hand, and the sights and sounds and the feels that come through it are added to it by doing it that way. And yeah, I was so impressed with it. I thought it was really ingenious form of storytelling. So obviously the story is basically, I think the biggest theme of this is living with ghosts, both literally and figuratively. I thought it reminded me of Stir of Echoes, the Kevin Bacon film from, I think, the early 2000s. Obviously, it's a very, very different setting, but that was the first film that pops into my mind. This is very Stir of Echoes-y, if it was a British folk horror. Was there any connections that you could see out there?
There was only one, and it shouldn't have happened because it kind of ruined it for myself. But you know when they're sitting around the table and she said, "No, that table's for blah blah blah." Thomas, was it Thomas? You know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you?
I know what you're going to say. I thought,
and I could hear his fucking Scouse accent in my head. And is Derek Kikori's dead now, isn't he?
I think he is.
Yeah, that's all I could think of. Straight when she said, "Oh, he's my spirit guide," I thought, "Oh shit! Please don't say his name's Sam." But even with that little side tangent of my own doing, but like you said, for a very incredibly low budget film with the little pendulum thing, there was moments in, but I knew it was a horror. That is all I knew. But I thought, is this a horror of the fact of losing a child and the beating up of the person because they've lost a child? Is that what the horror is? But to splice in the supernatural stuff as well, there was proper like spine tingle moments in this for me. At various points, and that doesn't happen very often. In Gorefest, whatever, don't really care. Monsters don't care. Well, there was moments in this film that proper made me shiver, and I obviously can't say because we ain't spoiling this, because I think people should go and maybe not go and watch it in the cinema. Watch it on your own. Maybe watch it on your own in a dark room at home. Let's get it. Or if you're going on holiday in a cottage, for example.
Yeah.
Like remember when I watched The Lighthouse, in view of a lighthouse out by Emma Living window, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I think they just nailed it. They nailed it, and it didn't seem cheap. It didn't seem preachy. He got it as real as you could possibly be with this kind of stuff.
So I've got a slight disagreement with you. I think you should see this on the cinema because I think the views of the moors on the big screen work so much better. I think some of the visual storytelling in this is really, really good, and I think it would work so much better on a big screen. So that's the only thing I'd probably disagree with slightly with you there. But you touched on some of the supernatural elements which were brought by Elizabeth Dormer Phillips, who played Eleanor. She was the star of this film for me. I mean, I'm just going to have a quick look to see if it actually has her age on IMDb, because she plays someone who's just about to go to university. So I believe the character is supposed to be 17, 18-ish, maybe not even that old. Doesn't have her age, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was around that age herself. She looks very young. And the character of her, who was very mild and meek and sweet, who had to do some really quite harrowing, upsetting scenes, she absolutely blew it out of the water. She was incredible in this. Like, everyone was good. She was excellent, I thought.
Yeah. And we're not even talking about the bit with the tent. It's just to say that that's really not to say too much. Even without that, the stuff. Yeah, I think meek and innocent is what you're kind of looking for. How she portrayed it as like a proper girl next door. this is like a daddy's girl kind of thing. And was she his daughter? I can't remember now.
Yes. I can't remember the other guy's name in it, but yeah, he was her father because he was trying to stop her. Alex. He was trying to stop her from joining the party, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He told him, "No, I'm going to be doing this."
Yeah, I thought, she was. I mean, it's hard to say this will win anything because of how low budget it is, and it's probably not going to get seen by the people that it should be seen by. But if you put a name down as one to watch for, that's not a disservice at all.
She won the Best Supporting Actress at the British Horror Film Festival 2023 for this performance. And obviously I've not seen the other films, but I can absolutely see that as a winning performance. It was tremendous. Like I thought the entire cast, I think everyone was very, very good at what they did. Also, I thought the direction was really good of it. Like Chris Cronin, I think this is his feature-length debut. He's got a few credits on IMDb, but they're all short films. So for this to be your first feature-length film is a very impressive feat.
And something we never talk about as well, editing. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant in this. Nothing. The right amount of... I think you are right where you say that we're going to watch it for the vistas of North Yorkshire. That would be good, especially in IMAX, if you ever got the chance. But to go from things like that and you track Lord of the Rings style tracking shots, and not that they're going over mountains and stuff like that. They're going over Saltergate, I think, where the Hanging Valley was. I think that's one of the places, just from going there so often. There's a proper like S-bend as well. That wasn't featured. There's another one. We went in there. We went in. What year was that? So 2007, 8, something like that. We went in a Ford KA, and it didn't have the engine power to get up the hill because it had all the suitcases at the back. So we had to kind of roll back down to then power up to get up the hill, and it wrecked it, ruined the engine. Car was done the year after. But yeah, I thought how they mixed things like your panning shots to, like you said, if you go to the GoPro and then you go to the other parts and then the documentary stuff and then the podcast stuff, it just worked, and it was all proper snappy. There was no hang, and when it did hang about, it hung about for a reason, and I think that's what it was making me go weird. And I was watching this completely sober as well. I hadn't had a drink all week. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe. There was just the editing of like fade to black and stuff like that was fantastic. There's one scene where the camera pans down into the floor of the moors, and then you're coming out of the ceiling of one of the people she's interviewing. When have you ever seen a swipe from the bottom going from one scene to the next in an independent film like this?
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen. It's usually very straightforward kind of editing. This wasn't. There was trickery afoot, and it was fantastic because of it.
Yeah.
Really, I couldn't speak highly enough about this film. I thought it was brilliant. I was expecting fine, and I got so much more than that. I know we don't really do like star ratings and stuff on the podcast, but I think I was at 80% of this film. I thought it was fantastic. At the I don't know if it was the premiere, but at one of the shows, the director did say there are no resolutions in this film. And that's where my issue lies. There is something that happens towards the end that gets brought up that's a big twist that has no payoff. That's my only real issue with this, is I feel like they didn't quite stick the landing. Almost all of this film, and it's a 2-hour film, it's not a short film, but the last 10 minutes I feel slightly let it down for me. But the journey to it was so enjoyable that I would still recommend this movie.
Yeah. I'm not being as harsh as you, and the Pete behind the old cage fighting curtain, we did talk about this for 10 minutes before we started recording. Because I think I got the ending and he didn't, which is the opposite of what you'd expect. But I do know what the other point that you're making.
Yeah.
But again, with things like this, the things that do mess with your head, I kind of like it when they leave a few things open there to kind of fester and mess with you, and you're thinking about it weeks afterwards. And then if you do go out to put the bins out in the dark, you're kind of looking and you get scared by a fox or something like that. This stuff happens sometimes. I'm not mad. I'm mad enough to admit it, but I like loose tendrils every now and again. Maybe it was a bit too loose, but still, I think for what it is, not even saying that, not for what it is, for 2 hours, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And for horror people who we know, I'm presuming some of them have already seen this because they were at Fright Fest last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, go and watch it. I think it's a discussion point more than anything else. If it wasn't there, it'd be a very, very, very good film and an exceptional independent film. But this layer on top of it, for me, I liked it I liked how they went about things mostly. And it didn't dampen it for me.
That ambiguity, I think, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah.
Clearly did for you, it didn't quite for me. One criticism I have seen on some of the other reviews, people haven't quite enjoyed the pacing of it. There's 2 main criticisms, the pacing and the length. The pacing, because it is very, very slow, isn't it? It's
yeah.
I liked it because of that, because it was a slow burner. You were going along. It was allowing your mind to race ahead.
Exactly, yeah.
Back. And I liked that. I thought that was a very clever move. I do think they could probably have knocked out about 15 minutes. I do think it was slightly on the long side, personally. But that's a minor quibble, really. Is there anything that you could say would be a negative for you, personally?
I mean, I didn't feel like it was long. I didn't. And like I said,
you did say before, didn't you, that you never even checked the time? It was just enjoying it.
And there was parts where I thought, okay, that's a nice resolution to things. And that wasn't the resolution to things. But that was again shock because I'd enjoyed the 2 hours or hour and whatever it was up until that point happens. I think if you mess with it and you cut out too much, it turns it into something that it's not. Because I think the whole point was that it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be slow because you've got the guy who's been looking for his dead son for 25 years in a place where there's fuck all there.
Yeah.
Full of swampland, which is uninhabitable and you can barely move on it. And it's like we talk about 80s quicksand. I mean, that's what it is. It's in the fucking Yorkshire Moors.
I liked that. It made me think of those days as well. I like that.
Bring back quicksand. But yeah, I liked it. It added, like you said, it messes with your head and it added tension. And maybe I'm a bit more biased because I love that place and I love North Yorkshire. And I'm fairly familiar with it, but still, watching it as is. And I don't think the accents were fine. I don't think this is too bad. You're not talking like Peaky Blinders or any kind of Mersey beat for our American friends. But I wouldn't really change anything about it, weirdly enough.
That's fair. Super. Okay, right. So this film is out, as I said, it is out in select cinemas from the 14th of July. The 14th of June, and then available for digital download from the 1st of July. Welcome back. We're here for the QuestionCast portion of the podcast. Should really pull up my notes because that would help. So first off, Stu, so this was something you brought to my attention. The CEO of Sony Pictures gave an interview, I believe it was to the Hollywood Reporter. Tony, I'm never going to try, Vinciquerra, I believe is his surname, saying that Sony Pictures will be embracing generative artificial intelligence to cut costs. At an investor conference in Japan on Thursday, he said the company is very focused on AI. It's really interesting this is coming out now, like 6 months after the agreement was made with the striking parties late last year, the Actors and Writers Guild, that AI is back and badder than ever, it seems. I'm a bit confused as to why they're bringing this back to the party when it seems like all the arguments had been sort of laid to rest for at least a couple of years until the next round of strikes.
It depends what he's talking about as well. Because if he's talking about, I mean, like that video that I shared about the, so I thought this is pure cinema or whatever it was, and it was completely in Unreal Engine, that motorbike chase.
Yeah.
And it looked photorealistic. It looked real. And if you can generate backgrounds, and which you can in Unreal, again, what Max Beyond should have been. But if you can leave that to AI, and you don't have to spend months on end creating these worlds, maybe that's a good thing. It's bad for the people. It's bad for the artists who'd be painstakingly creating these things.
Mm.
Well, I think it might have been George Lucas. I remember I saw a quote a couple of weeks ago saying, "Did people give up on horses when the car came out?" And it's not exactly the same, but I kind of get what he means. That there's no point fighting this stuff. It's going to happen. You still need artists in the first place to create the stuff for the technology to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But if it turns out that you can put it into an algorithm, this is what I want here, this is what I want here, you fill in the rest. If it works, it works. I haven't got a major problem with that, as long as they're not creating digital people. That's the big problem.
Mm-hmm.
That we've seen it doesn't work yet. It probably never will, because you know they're not real. But for background and stuff like that, I haven't got a huge problem with it. The fact that he didn't say that, that's where the issues come about, because you know full well they want to do it all without anyone involved whatsoever.
Yeah, their dream is we'll hire one person and they'll just type something into an algorithm and a film will pop out the other end. That's the dream, and that's kind of what worries me mostly. Because if you use it as a tool, if you've got an artist who needs to render something and he's got that tool in order to help him do that job quicker and more efficiently, fantastic. The worry is that tool will be used to replace that person rather than be used by that person.
Yeah. Because
studios have kind of shown that they never learn the right lesson with these things, do they?
And they can't be trusted.
They can't, can they? They need like heavy regulation because it's run by dicks. That's a bit of an issue. But I'm not entirely surprised that someone's broken cover and said it. I'm maybe more surprised that it's taken 6 months. Like, I fully expect some cunt like David Zaslav to come in.
David Zaslav.
Because he is a twat. But, yeah, that's part of the point. Next up, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow has been given a release date. 26th of June, 2026. Obviously, it's very, very early days. The chances of this actually coming out in June 26 are slim. Everything seems to slide back. But it's been put on the slate now. It looks like that they're going to be pushing this ahead. It's going to be Millie Alcock, who was in House of Dragons. I thought she was really good in that. I'm quite interested to see what they're going to do with Kara Zor-El, because she's been a character who's always been defined by Superman until Melissa Benoist. I hate that surname. It should be Benoit. Melissa Benoist, I think, really embodied the character, and we got Supergirl before we got Superman in that world. And it did so much for that character in particular, I thought. And the fact that they're doing this, which is going to be, if it's following the Tom King graphic novel, I haven't read it, but I basically know the story. Kara Zor-El is tired of being on Earth and she just needs to find out who she is. So she goes off into space and she finds out who she is while surrounded by other aliens. And I think it's like a bit of a journey into self-discovery kind of thing. Tom King is an excellent, excellent writer, one of the best of the last 5 years. So if they're basing it on that graphic novel, I do have high hopes for it. Stu, Supergirl, like, I'm assuming you probably haven't read the book either. You're not much of a comic book reader, but
no.
How are you feeling about all of this?
I mean, I think we were the only ones who watched that series.
I think so.
But it was good. It was fun. we know what's going to happen though here, because she's not blonde, is she? And she's not pristine ivory tusk white either. And we just know what's going to happen. And regardless of how good it is, she's gonna get shit on, and it's just so inevitable. It's like, well, we know that this is going to happen. You're going to have to make something exceptional. Can they do that? I have my doubts. Will I watch it? Yes. But I can't believe it's so far away. I thought this was going to be our next year. This is one of these things, but 2 years.
I think they're taking a bit more of a slow approach, so they're not going to come, year one and we're going to get fucking 8 films and force it down our throats. So obviously next year we've got the Superman film, and then it's going to be 12 months later. Oh, I'm okay with that. I don't think they need to overload us with these films. It's going to be directed by Craig Gillespie, who did Dumb Money, which I really enjoyed that last year. Lars and the Real Girl, which I mentioned on was on the podcast. He also did I, Tonya and Cruella, 2 of the films I really enjoyed that were female-led. So I do have high hopes for Craig Gillespie as a director, and that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Then we're also going to be getting, well, this is interesting. So we're getting a TV series of Tomb Raider. It's going to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge as part of her deal with Amazon Prime. But also this year, we're getting a Netflix Tomb Raider animated show. And Hayley Atwell is going to be doing the voice of Lara Croft, which, why is Tomb Raider on Netflix and Prime? I'm a bit confused about that initially. And then we'll talk about Phoebe. Have you heard of this animated show that we should be getting some point this year? October 10th, apparently.
Yeah, they talked about it on Sacred Symbols, because for the first time in a long time, there's no imminent Tomb Raider game, is there? So what we're going to do in the meantime, we'll have, we're not having an animated show. Okay, well, we have a live action one as well. It's like, well, you can't have them on the same thing, so we'll just share them around. That makes perfect sense. It's all very strange, very bizarre to me. Are either of them going to address the issue? Is she going to be able to breathe properly? No, they won't be, will they? So it's not real Lara Croft. But now, I suppose it's similar to the Godzilla situation, where you had Godzilla versus Kong, and you had the one, Ash's favourite all time. Yeah, which is now on Netflix, so I'll watch that this week.
And we should be getting the Godzilla -1 colour later this year as well. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Excellent. Yeah, if you can have 2 Godzilla films out in the same year, then you can have 2 Lara Croft properties in Tomb Raider, animated in real life. I like Tomb Raider. I like the later one as well, the Vikander one. I thought that was all right, even though it just copied the story of the rebooted games. But hey ho. But yeah, I thought he was going somewhere, and then that just tailed off, fell off the edge of a cliff. Even though it did okay, I think. Mm-hmm. People seem to like it pretty well, and it always surprises me that Daniel Craig was in the ones with the ones from the early 2000s, I suppose, weren't they? Was
he really? I don't remember much about them other than Chris Barry being in it. Was the only other thing I remember.
Was he the butler?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. But not the butler that you could put in the fridge. I mean, I suppose you've got that, the reimagines of the first 3 games, which I haven't played since the 90s. But yeah, Daniel Craig was the villain in the first film.
Yeah, I completely blanked on that. Yeah. It's sort of a pity that, I mean, as I said, Hayley Atwell's going to be doing the voice work on the animated series. If this had been 20 years ago, I think she'd have been the perfect actor to have played Lara Croft live action. I mean, she's 42. I can't imagine she would want to be playing a de-aged version of Lara Croft at this point in her career either. But I thought she would have been a perfect choice for this had it been, 20 years prior. There's no names linked currently to the live action one. I am looking forward to it. I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge as a writer. Like, I enjoyed Fleabag. I'm not quite sure how that will translate to this world, but yeah, I am kind of intrigued to see where this goes. I'm just a bit weirded by having the same property on two separate companies. Bit odd.
What if? I mean, I doubt it would happen. But what if the Queen of Our Hearts herself, Sydney Sweeney, was cast in this?
I think she might.
Not just for that reason either. Although that is obviously two massive bonuses there.
Fits the character quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think her age might preclude her, because I'm only assuming that it's going to be early Lara Croft, because the rebooted series did start, like, it was the start of her journey, wasn't it?
Mm.
So I'm sort of feeling like we're probably going to get someone who's going to be 20-ish. And I think Sydney Sweeney is pushing 30. I don't think she's... I could be wrong on that. I think her age probably precludes her. And I might be wrong, but I don't get the impression she's one for a franchise.
Maybe.
It seems like she wants to try her hand at a bit of everything, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it'd be a bad choice, because actually in everything I've seen her in, she hasn't been a bad actor at all, to be honest. So it'd be probably believable.
And the SNL thing was actually really good.
Was it? I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, she was... Because some of these things, they just shit, ain't they? It's right, it's written for them. It's obviously not them. But there's a way to deliver these things. She was really good. And she sent herself up really well. And I thought, well, Tomb Raider with a bit of comedy, it's not really the most fun thing ever. No versions of it have been laden with Marvel gags, but neither was Fleabag, really. So a bit of subtlety, I think she could do it.
It'll be interesting to see, because I think if you take someone like Sydney Sweeney, you have the baggage of having Sydney Sweeney. You go into that knowing who she is. Yeah. I think they'll probably go for an unknown. Like, I don't think Vikander was a particularly well-known actor at that point. I think she'd done Ex Machina, but probably not a lot else where she was front and centre, at least. So I think that's probably the route they'll go down. Plus, it's cheaper to have someone you don't know, and then they can pay them mega bucks like 2-3 years down the line when the contract's up for renewal. Generally how they work these things, isn't it? Stu, have you seen Glass Onion and Knives Out? You've seen both of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the third one has now been confirmed as coming out. Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. So Daniel Craig is going to be returning. I've never been a big fan of Daniel Craig, and this is by far his best role. He's brilliant as Benoit Blanc. Really, really like him in these films, and not much else that he's done I couldn't even be asked about, but tremendous as Benoit Blanc.
I mean, where does he even go, though, other than full leotard? I mean, he had the neckerchief in Glass Onion.
Yeah, we do need to see him in like cycling shorts and a shirt. He just needs something campus tits and fun, because that's the character, isn't it? Josh O'Connor's going to be in this. Kaylee Spenny, I believe it's pronounced. Andrew Scott, who's been quite a hot property over the last couple of years. Kerry Washington, who's always fantastic. Glenn Close. Jeremy Renner, I'm putting it out now, is either going to be the murderer or the first person murdered. Mila Kunis and Daryl McCormack, who is the only name I don't think I recognise on this list. But early signs are it's going to be a good cast again, much like Glass Onion was. And to be fair, actually, the first one had a really good cast when you think of Jamie Lee Curtis, and Captain America was in it, and Ana de Armas. I feel like he's very good at wrangling really good ensemble casts, so I'm very excited about this one.
Well, even though he's a Liverpool fan, he does seem to have a bit of actual charisma about him. Whenever you see him like interviewed and stuff, it's pretty rare that he does them, but he always seems remarkably normal for the amount of things that he's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. What have I got up next? So we have got Craven the Hunter has been moved. So originally this was supposed to be out in August, and it has been pushed back up until December. So we're actually getting a Christmas release for this film. The reason cited, right, let me find the actual quote. So Craven moved to Christmas because we're excited about it, and Christmas is the best release period there is, when you get people with time to go back to the movies over and over again. That was a real reflection on how the studio felt about the movie. We're really excited, but that's a great move that reflects just the feeling about the movie. So they feel like, now, bearing in mind, this is part of the same world that Morbius or Mobius? It's Morbius, isn't it? Madame Web. Like, this is that universe. They're so excited about this film after two absolute stinkers that they think people are going to go back multiple times over the Christmas period to watch this. I mean, the cynic in me, so they're saying that it's a busy period in August, so they don't want to put Craven out then, so they're pushing it back. I would argue that Christmas running is probably going to be a busier period. So, if anything, this to me just feels like they're sort of burying it and it'll get overlooked for more family affairs at that point of the year.
So, on the Cineworld thing, it's got, in that period of time, you got 26th of July, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
16th of August, Untitled Alien Movie, which has now got a name.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Then it was out originally 30th of August, so the week after. So it had a week on its own between Alien and Beetlejuice 2. That is not that thing, is it? It's not.
It's not packed, is it?
No, it's not packed. Beetlejuice 2 will be interesting. This could be like a Top Gun Maverick situation again. It could be Indiana Jones 4.
Yeah.
The real Indiana Jones 4, by the way. We're not counting that one.
Of course.
Who knows? But to do this, I thought you was going to say, the cynic in you says they've made this even shitter than it could have been, deliberately, to kind of play off the whole Madam Web fun and laughter about the whole situation. But when they do that, when the people try to do that, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
So
Doesn't, does it?
It's an odd decision to make, especially since Craven the Hunter was in Spider-Man 2 game last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year. So it's a character that people now know again. I don't know. It's going to be terrible. I'm going to go and watch it. Matt's going to say, why are you watching this stuff anymore? You're going to hate it anyway, unless it's funny, unintentionally. But people are not going to see it more than once over Christmas, are they? They've got other things to do. If you're going to see it more than once, you do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I remember rightly, Mufasa is out a week later. So that's immediately going to take its thunder. I think we've also got, is Sonic 3 out this December, if I remember rightly. So that's coming in. You've got Wicked and Moana 2 were out just before it. What is Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim?
Rohirrim. It's an animated film.
Okay. So again, like, people are going to be there. This looks like it's a much busier period than August. So they're absolutely burying this film. They don't want people to see this. And I'll be honest, I'm sort of interested because Russell Crowe's in it. And Russell Crowe, when he puts an accent on, it's awful, but it's fucking watchable nonetheless. So, yeah, they know they've got a turkey on their hands here, which is kind of ironic for why they're sticking it back to Christmas time, I think.
I mean, much like Jeff Shee trying to take our season tickets off us, we will not be silenced. I will be there. We will talk about this film. But do you think it is actually so shit that they've gone and done rewrites and reshoots, and they're trying to bury the fact of that because of what's happened? Because these rewrites and reshoots happened in Morbius. It definitely happened in Madam Web because they've all talked about how it happened in that film. Why would it be any different for this one?
They clearly don't understand any of the characters that they have at their disposal. So it just seems like they make a film, it's dog shit. So they remake a film, it's still dog shit. So they then do something else with it to try and force it in. And nothing's working at this point for them.
Why does it say Venom 2 on this list?
Oh, Venom 3 should be out this year as well, shouldn't it? That's a dance.
Yeah. On the Cineworld listing, it's got Venom 2, which is obviously wrong. But that's the 8th of November. If these things are in the same universe, that's going to mess it all up.
Really? Let's be honest. They're a fucking shambles as they are, so I don't know if he will, to be honest.
Well, they've never talked about each other so far, haven't they? Well, I don't think so.
They haven't done the Justice League meetup of Spider-Man villains, have they, at this point? So it's a bit strange.
So
it's an entire mess. They should just scrap it at this point, I think.
So it's expected the 25th of October. So that has been brought forward, if anything.
And obviously that's going to be the final act of the Venom trilogy, so we're not getting any more of those. So I don't know, it's just the whole thing's baffling. If they had any sense, I think Sony would just give them back to Marvel to use in their Spider-Man films. Just strike a deal where it's a case of you can use these characters and we will take 50% of the earnings, because they're getting nothing. They're getting bad word of mouth, and we'll come to that slightly later, that it only seems to get washed later on Netflix. So, yeah, they're just pissing money away at this point, and it seems a really bad move on their behalf.
So, Madam Web, for example, how much did that cost? Probably a lot. It's on a 3.9 now on IMDb.
I mean, it's not a 3.9 bad film. It's not a good film by like any stretch of the imagination, but that's
funny.
Slightly harsh, doesn't it?
Okay, so it's saying estimated 80 million budget, which seems not right. Gross worldwide, $100 million.
So that didn't make its money back when you factor in promotion and stuff. No chance. Because if that was 80 million, let's be honest, that was probably at least 120, and then I'm guessing if they're saying 80. Because they're going to undercut it, and they're going to spend another 100-ish just on promotion. So they're going to be in the hole by quite a margin, I imagine, there.
Yeah, and it's an estimated as well, when normally it's a fixed figure. So some bucks are being cooked there.
Yeah. That's not a good look for Sony at all, is it? Right, final piece of news. It's actually an update. So a couple of weeks ago, we said that there was rumours about Nick Cage was going to be starring as Spider-Man Moor, and it has now been confirmed that series is moving ahead and it's going to be live action. I was excited about the idea of it being animated, but actually thinking about doing it as a live action version with a grizzled old 50-year-old Peter Parker. It's like quite interesting that it's going to be a different look at this character. I know it's going to be set in a different universe anyway, but just the thought of seeing an almost broken down Spider-Man does intrigue me. I'm really looking forward to this one. And I'm so glad that Nick Cage seems to be jumping over to doing TV work, which is hell for our podcast. But I am quite pleased with that nonetheless.
Yeah, and when we said at the time that is the best character in that film as well.
It is, and I love that film. So, yeah, he's tremendous in it. So, love it. Fantastic. Right, that is the news. We've got a few questions in Listener Corner, Stuart. So, Blinding Right, Andrew Wright. We haven't heard of Andrew for quite some time. What fictional city or town would you run a marathon or half marathon in?
Oh.
I mean, I have arthritis in my knees, so I'm not any running. I might do Metropolis just so I can hold on to Superman and he can take me to the finishing line.
I mean, you'd want to think. I mean, Blade Runner LA would be a laugh, wouldn't he? Just out of curiosity, seeing all the sex robots and stuff around and just seeing what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, my first thought, for some reason, was Zootopia.
That would be quite fun, actually. I quite like that.
And the Shakira giraffe and everything. It's all very enjoyable. Yeah, go on then. Yeah, there you are. Zootopia or Zootropolis, whichever name, wherever you live.
Whatever side of the Atlantic you're on. Matt Cunnington, do you have a TV show or film you defended to the hilt back in the day, but now looking back, you think I was wrong? Good question. There's nothing that immediately springs to mind for me that I feel massively incorrect. I recently, it's probably about 5-6 years ago, I rewatched Dark Crystal, is it? The
film,
puppet.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly like it on rewatch, I've got to be honest. But I can't say I ever defended it to the hills. I remember it being a bit like when we spoke about Neverending Story. I remember it being really good, and then on rewatch, it's not really that great. That's the only one that really springs to my mind.
Yeah, I remember really loving James Bond Jr., but then that is wank. If you watch it now, it's really bad.
I think I've seen it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like James Bond's nephew.
Okay.
Doesn't say, because apparently it was canon at the time before Daniel Craig, so let's not go there. But you've got like young versions of Jaws and everywhere, an Odd Job, and like relatives of all the others. It was ridiculous. I don't think so. I can't think of it as something that I've watched and loved at the time that I've changed my mind over. There was like there was like the later series of X-Files was not good, but I don't think we knew that we didn't think it was good at the time.
No, when Mulder left, we knew it wasn't X-Files anymore.
Yeah, I mean the most recent is probably The Walking Dead for them 3 or 4 years in the middle.
The dark period,
yeah, where we just kind of
good.
Shuffle through. Which I'm amazed. I mean, so when the advert started popping up the other day for the new one, the spin-off, that it's never been aired here.
Have they not?
Apparently not.
Okay, that is strange.
Yeah, because I was can't remember who I was talking to about this then, and they said, "Oh, you excited for the new Walking Dead?" I went, "What new Walking Dead?" You know, the one we shown. I went, "Saw it months ago. Saw it last year."
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it's never been shown here. So there's another one for the old transatlantic issue. But yeah, probably them too.
I'd say I'd say this, but the Transformers animated show, not as good as I remember. So a couple of 3 weeks ago, there was that thing on at the cinema, the 40th anniversary, More Than Meets the Eye, I think it's called. And they'd re-recorded the first episode with some of the original voice actors and some new ones. And then they showed the next 3 episodes, I think it was. So you got to see the first 4 episodes of the original series. Jesus Christ, it was all over the place. Like, there's bits where the humans are running as fast as the Transformers. There's one part where, like, Bumblebee is towering over Spike, the kid, and then in the next scene, he's as tall as the other humans. Like, the scale is all over the place. There's one part where Cliffjumper, possibly, he's having a fight with Rumble. They fall into the dam, and some rocks go on top of Cliffjumper, and he can't get the rocks up. So Spike's dad, whose name I can't remember, Spark it now. Anyway, his dad goes down, swims down into the water, and just picks the rock up off of Cliffjumper so that he can swim out. I realised this show is absolutely terrible. The continuity is all over the place, and it really was terrible watching it. It was fun, don't get me wrong. Like, there was quite a few laughs in the cinema when it was going on, but I realised this is not the show I remember it being.
I think a lot of them, like He-Man as well, and She-Ra, and all that kind of era, that kind of animation style, they're all a bit shit. And they just are, but it doesn't matter because they were aimed at kids at the time who didn't know any better.
Yeah. It's just those kids have now grown up and, yeah. Like Thundercats, every episode of Thundercats is exactly the same, just got a different colour, animal version of the bad guy in it, and they're terrible, which is so depressing when so much of my youth was based on these characters. Yeah, a bit depressing.
You know, I do kind of wonder if, like, the A-Team holds up anymore, because I know it's... I like Baywatch. I fucking love Baywatch. It's brilliant. Well, it's not brilliant, it's shit, but it's fun. And I watched it. I watched it as a kid. Then I watched it as an adolescent for the obvious reasons. And then I've probably watched it through about 4 times. And I think it was last year or the year before. It was all on Prime. You could watch it all from start to finish. And I watched through half of it. It's ridiculous. But it was never a thing to be ashamed of at the time. So it was all a bit of the clique. And you were more picked on if you like Airwolf and A-Team and stuff like that. I know Knight Rider still holds up just about. But them, I'd wonder if they would. I doubt it.
Possibly not. I haven't seen... I don't think I've ever seen Airwolf. I haven't seen A-Team for years and years at this point. I remember there was a time on UK TV Gold or whatever they used to show them. And for some reason, the episode with Boy George just seemed to be on every single time I turned the channel on. Which I don't quite understand that, but that's my overriding memories, Boy George and the A-Team. Mike Evans wants to know, Stu, this might be one for our other podcast. Can someone Photoshop Stu with the glasses and dressing gown on into the Rest is Football podcast or something similar? Glasses and dressing gown, Stu? I don't remember this one.
It was it was when I was broken, when you said I was both.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
And
there's the Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stu, you're the man to do the photoshopping, I think. So, Stu will knock that one up and we'll put that one out on the socials. And finally, Ash Dolan. After this week's Lion King 30th anniversary performance at the Hollywood Bowl being ruined by Northwest's performance of I Just Can't Wait to Be King, what is the greatest example of nepotism in film/TV? Those tickets were like over $2,000 to go and see that 30th anniversary showing. And Northwest comes out and gives the most tone-deaf fucking performance I've ever heard. Have you seen the clip yet, Stu, of this?
Who is this?
So Northwest is Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's, I think it's daughter. I don't want to misgender though. I think she's the daughter. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so basically the only reason that they're there is because of who she came out of.
Yeah.
Because she cannot sing for shit. Like, it's really tone deaf. And don't get me wrong, it's all fine and well if that's some school production that has put it on and they just want like their 5 minutes of fame. I sort of get it. But this is the 30th anniversary of The Lion King. You could put some no-name chud in there who no one will ever hear of again, who can just sing the song, and that will still sell and get press because it's The Lion King's 30th anniversary. They didn't need the fame of having a Kardashian West in there, especially one who cannot sing for shit. It's like, it's kind of fucking gross. Have you seen the clip though, Stu?
No. I'm trying to find it now.
It's kind of awful. But yeah, it's the greatest example of nepotism that you can think of. One springs to mind for me immediately. It's not the greatest, it's the absolute dirt worst. And it's Jaden Smith's existence as an actor. Like, he's got no charisma. Stu's holding up a picture, yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's the worst though, isn't he, Stu?
Pursuit of Happiness aside, yes.
Yeah, and like, he only really works in Pursuit of Happiness because he's pretty much silent throughout it. Like, Will just gets to act around him. But even in the film that sprang to mind for me, which was After Earth, Shyamalan film, where Will Smith is in it, and even Will Smith gives a terrible performance. I almost feel like Will Smith was trying to like get rid of his charisma to allow Jaden to flourish, and Jaden was just fucking terrible in this. And I've not seen him in anything else where he's been anything less than the worst thing in the film. He's awful. He's absolutely dreadful.
It was the easy answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think. I mean, it seems like everyone can have one decent performance about them in their career, mostly. But that very much seems like an outlier. I mean, I don't go out my way to watch him, so if he's been in better things, then fair play. But I haven't seen him.
No, same here. The greatest, I mean, it's kind of harsh saying nepotism because Emma Roberts, I feel like, has well and truly eclipsed her father, Eric
she's
Roberts.
fun.
Yeah, I think she's really talented. I know she's Julia Roberts' niece, and obviously she's the big star. But her father, Eric Roberts, I mean, the best film I think I've seen Eric Roberts in was that film where he was a talking cat. Like, he's really terrible in pretty much everything he does.
Yeah, but he knows he is, though. He knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he knows that he's a bottom of the barrel kind of actor, and that's fine. That's how he makes his living. Good on him. But Emma Roberts, I've got a lot of time for Emma Roberts. I will watch her in pretty much anything. So she's probably the greatest version of it for me, I think, personally.
So last time we did this, he was making 5 films a year. How many has he done now?
Oh, he was in Dark Knight. I'd completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So this year he's made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, five films this year already.
No, he's got more than that. Eric Roberts. Right, so he's got one coming out. Death Pays Flora a Visit. Her Fatal Fling. Spawns. Great White Throne Judgment. Holiday in the Hamptons. Oh, that looks like a TV show. Very Frightening Tales. The Depths.
Oh, yeah.
Down Below. Dead Community Guild. Wangel? I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to be. Wanghale Cheheo or something. The Firing Squad. Lumina. Rice Girl, My Redneck Neighbor 2. That sounds like a porno. Mr. Blue Shirt, The Inspiration. That also sounds like a porno. Arena Wars, Insane Like Me, Ojai, Fire Rises, Protocol 7, Mr. Pettigrew, Darkness of Man, Psycho fucking hell. Dark Gallifrey. June 20th, we're getting Dark Gallifrey, which is it's a podcast series that he's doing.
What's the master?
Team of 2, Garlic Parmesan, Intent Unknown, Snow White and the Seven Samurai, which has got a 7.1. The Company We Keep, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then we've got,
there's more.
There is more. Master, The Laundress, and Now Lay Me Down, Seance Games, Meta Who, The Private Eye, Tall, Dark and Dangerous, Cruise, Parole, Brat 3, Sour Honey, The Few. Good God, I'm still scrolling and this is still going, fucking hell. So he's releasing like 30 odd films this year alone. That is incredible for someone who mostly does absolute turgid shit. I mean, these must be a lot of films where he's just got one day on set and that's it.
25, 26.
I feel like I could edit that bit down and just put the audio in the middle, put like an ad, and I've just still listed it throughout and come back and I'm still going because that is a never-ending list of absolutely
41, 2, 3, 4, 45 films in a year. Well,
that's an actor, right? So he started, if we go back, and this is a long list, he has got 739 actor credits. I am scrolling as fast as I can to get to the bottom, and I'm still only on 2012. I need to know when this guy's career actually started. Right, so that's the self. Okay, so he doesn't even have a date on his first earliest film. So it looks like his earliest performance was in 1977. That looks like that. Potentially, so we're talking about him starting mid to late 70s. And he has got over 700 acting credits, with 45 coming in 2024.
Over 700 credits in the time that Star Wars has existed.
Wow. I mean, I'm just glad we didn't decide to start with Eric Roberts' rewatch because that fucker will outlive us, I think. Incredible. Right, that's the listener questions. Thank you very much for getting in contact with us. cagefightingpod@gmail.com or ask cagefightingpod on the socials. First question, Stu. What have you been watching? Seen anything good, bad, somewhere in between lately?
So, the old clean-up job ahead of the Euros, because, let's face it, the vast majority of June will be spent watching football, 3 a day for the start. I don't think I'm at the stage now where I don't think it's possible to watch every game again. I've done it before, and I did look at, now I'm a proud Quest 3 hour now. I could, in theory, if I really, really wanted to, walk down the street with that on the school run so that I don't miss a second of the 2 p.m. games. But so, because of that, I've got a few things out the way. But I realised that because of the incident, I needed to rewatch The Boys again from the start.
Okay.
And I hadn't watched the animated one or Gen V. So I thought, okay, I'll start it again. It's even better. It's even better second time round. We spoke about it at the time there, where we've all gushed over it multiple times. Just superb. So there was that, and then finished Blue Lights, like I said before. Very good. Confirmed for season 3 and 4. And I went to watch Furiosa, and I was a bit disappointed, which was sad.
Okay.
I don't know I know you said it's a different film and it's slower, and it's more like Mad Max 2 than anything else. I don't know what I expected going in. I thought, well, it can't possibly be as good as Fury Road, because I'd watched that again the night before. Maybe that was the problem, that I had watched it the night before and I was kind of got my hopes up that it was going to be similar. It's a film on its own right, I suppose. It's all right, and it's more part of the universe than that one is. I just thought there could have been a bit more about it, but then what were we really going to find out? How she lost her arm? That's the main thing that we needed to know. Even that was a bit meh. I don't know. I just came about a little bit disappointed out of it, really. And I don't know why, because I still enjoyed myself. Some of the scenes were incredible. Some of the stuff in the motion again was Fury Road-esque. I just didn't like it as much. But that's more of a living up to a legend than being a bad film in its own right.
That's fair. I've heard a lot of reviews that come down on your side and a lot that come down on my side, because I really enjoyed it. And I think because I went in with no expectations whatsoever, I sort of went in just hoping to enjoy myself, and I really did. It is a very different film to Fury Road, and it's not as good as Fury Road, but let's be honest, very few films are that good. It is an exceptional work of art. But I really enjoyed Furiosa. What did you think of Anya Taylor-Joy rather than having Charlize Theron back?
It was a bit jarring because of, especially how it just leads straight into it. I thought her being younger wasn't a problem. That made sense. But then her literally being the same person, looking like she does, and obviously that's no one's fault. And you can't be using Charlize. However good she looks now, it's 10 years on. I know you're only talking a couple of years earlier, but you're talking. We've seen this before. It doesn't work. So recasting, I get it. But then to do what they did at the end, in the credits, it was like, well, what have you done this for? You've just shown a better film, parts of a better film, with a different person playing the character. Bizarre. I thought she was okay on her own. I thought she was fine. But we said before that Fury Road's more about Fury Road than it is about Max. So it's a big shoes to fill in a way. But I thought she was okay. I thought he was superb.
Yeah, I forget his name, but like immediately he's been spoke about very highly, been linked with a lot of other roles. Like I think he's been linked to Maxwell Lord in the DC universe. Like they're talking about other remakes and stuff. Immediately he's been linked with big properties already. So I think people really like what they gave from the fella. I'm going to have to quickly Google that. Tom Burke.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was... and you know, as well, the other him in the film, Chris Hemsworth.
He was fine.
I enjoyed his performance. It was big, silly bollocks.
Have you seen him on Hot Ones last week?
No, I haven't.
Oh, great. I mean, that show is nonsense anyway, but...
Yeah.
He, let's put it this way, Lewis Hamilton was more hardcore than Hemsworth was.
Yeah. Oh, that's surprising.
But as a surfer Aussie guy that he is, hot food broken. But
that's kind of disappointing. I expected him to handle his shit, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not spoiling the Hot Ones for anyone, but let's just say he struggled more than I thought he would.
Okay.
And he did have to reach for the milk and the rice pudding. So
super. Anything else on your list, Stu?
Only one thing that we'll talk about in a bit for my question.
Right, okay. Right, so The Strangers Chapter 1, have I spoke about that on here? I can't remember.
No, not yet.
No. That fucking film. I thought, because it was Chapter 1, I thought it was going to be a prequel to The Strangers film, which is fine. It's not a film I love, but the wonders of having a Cineworld Unlimited card means you get to see any old shit. So I thought, well, this will just occupy my time this particular Friday. I've never been so... Well, I say I've never. I have been angry watching plenty of films, but this one really did stink. It was terrible, terrible film. It culminated in absolutely nothing. There was no payoff. It was... You know how the first Lord of the Rings film was very much the start of a journey, but as a film, it still had a beginning, middle, and end, pretty much. This didn't. This was just, we dropped in the middle of a movie and we end at the middle of the movie. There was no like path through this movie. None of the actors in it were particularly interesting or like held their screen. It had one of the people in it from Riverdale, you know, the Archie comics turned teen show. I've never actually watched Riverdale before.
No, neither have I.
And I've got to be honest, every time I see one of their actors in a TV show or a film, it makes me less likely to watch Riverdale because they are all almost exclusively fucking terrible actors. And this was no different with the main girl who was in this. Madeleine Petsch, I think, is the one who was the, I say star in inverted commas. She led the film and she was awful. Her face barely moved throughout it. She was supposed to be like emoting fear, and you just wouldn't have known because she was just this dead-eyed fuck throughout the whole movie. It was so insulting. And because it's Chapter 1, from what I hear, they've made 2 other films. They filmed all 3 of them back to back. I think this film has made enough money that it's cleared its coffers already. So we're going to be getting the other ones now. And I sort of feel like I'm probably going to end up watching them because they're going to release them on weeks where there's nothing else out. Just sort of fill the fucking void. So annoyed. It was awful. Really, like, arguably the worst film I've seen this year that was released this year. Terrible. I mean, Madam Web clears this shit easily. Easily.
I mean, when you said this the first time, I think, well, it is kind of your fault that you went into a film titled Part 1 and then expected a resolution at the end. So that doesn't count. The rest, absolutely.
Yeah. The chapter, I assumed that Chapter 1 meant this is the story before the films you know, not this is more of that world. Yeah, I got it completely wrong.
But I didn't
it Chapter 1, if they'd have called it Part 1, I think it would have been different. Calling it Chapter 1 makes me think that this is all a book, this is all a novel, and this is the first one before that. So calling it Chapter 1, I think they fucked up. But I should have read it first anyway. You are right.
I mean, I had no idea what this even was, so I thought this was the first one of a thing, and it was like a June situation where when it says June and I didn't know, and it started with Part 1. I thought, well, this is not going to end then, is it? And it still ended up being a brilliant film anyway. Unlike, similar to Spider-Verse 2, I didn't know that was going to be 2 parts. So when it did end, I thought, well, what is going on here? But everyone apparently knew beforehand. So we've all been there. We've all done it. You just did it on a shit film.
I mean, I'd say watch the first one, The Strangers, 2008. It's all right. Home invasion nonsense. You get a resolution. I know I've seen The Strangers Pray at Night, but for the life of me, I couldn't tell you anything that happens in that one. The first one's worth a watch, definitely. But yeah, burn the rest. I finished off The Sopranos. What an absolute work of art that series is. Just, it feels like it's a watershed moment in television. I think when you place that into 99 is when the first episode went out. And I think you can pretty much see that TV changed after The Sopranos. That's when we started to get long-form television series that wasn't just, a freak of the week or who's the murderer this week on CSI kind of. This is where stories start to be told across, 15 episodes or, year and year and year. Just absolutely incredible. I got to the end of it and I felt so, I was elated because it's such a great series, but I felt bereft because I'm like, we're never going to get any more of this. I felt kind of sad that I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself, but it was incredible. And I need you to see The Sopranos when you get a chance to.
Oh yeah, I will.
I mean, Matt's already seen it, and yeah, because we need to have a conversation about the ending as well. What an absolutely incredible show with some of the absolute best performances you've seen from James Gandolfini. He's always a really good actor, and he is incredible in this. Buscemi rocks up. He's only in it for 5 episodes, and he's great. Joe Pantoliano, Joey Pants, again, just plays the biggest cunt you've ever seen on screen, and he's brilliant at it. So, yeah, it's exceptional. I then followed that up watching The Many Saints of Newark, which is the prequel film, which is fine. Don't watch that film first. It doesn't spoil much.
I was just going to say.
It spoils one thing which you don't want to spoil it. So, yeah, it's worth a watch if you've seen The Sopranos. And apparently when that went out, then the uptick on people subscribing to Max or whatever it's called, that sort of went up and The Sopranos got a second lease of life. So I do think it would help if you wonder whether or not you'll give it a go. But if you do want to give it a go, just dive into The Sopranos. You will not be disappointed. Someone described it as I think it was an 84-hour film, The Sopranos. That's exactly what it is. It is a film throughout. Incredible.
So now you've done Matt's, you can do mine in The Wire.
Yeah, that's on the list. I've got The Wire and Dexter's the other one that I've been talking about watching.
Dexter is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near them two. I was just looking at the year Sopranos 99, The Wire 2002, The Shield 2002, which doesn't get talked about ever. Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, no one ever really mentions The Shield, do they?
Well, it was buried here on Channel 5. That's probably why.
Yeah.
And I never finished it because they took it away. So I don't know if it even ended. But I loved that. I thought that was great. But again, it's what The Wire's on 9.3, Sopranos is on
9.2, I think.
9.2, yeah. So much of a muchness.
Yeah. No, fantastic. So yeah, those are the main ones that I've watched recently. I also watched Hundreds of Beavers, which is the weirdest slapstick nonsense I've ever seen. It's a silent film, and it's got a live action person interspersed with animation, and it's really weird, and I can't describe it, but definitely watch it. Give it 20 minutes. If you're not enjoying it after 20 minutes, you probably won't enjoy it because it's that in its entirety. It's sort of like if Bottom was more PG, I think. It's that kind of silly, slapsticky, violent humour. You either love it or hate it, Stu. like I said in the group chat, I feel like it's the kind of film that Matt will hate, but you potentially will.
Yeah.
And I kind of want you both to watch it just to get your reactions out of it. It's a real weird one. Not terrible, even though, yeah. Moving on. We'll start with Matt's question. Is there a TV show you stop at, even though you know there is more when you do your run through? I.e., for me, once I've watched the Queen of Sheba episode of The Royal Family, I stop even though there are more special. So is there a TV show that you just give up on once it's hit its peak, or do you stick with it to the bitter end?
I've done this a few times. I was thinking that, like, MCU, there's a part where when I did my rewatch in 2021, wasn't it? When we had nothing else to do. And I watched one I think I watched 2 a week at that point.
Yeah.
So I've seen them multiple times up until Endgame, and looking over there in the corner, where I've actually got. And Phase, everything after that I've seen once. I've never seen again. Even though I like the moles and changing, we're not going to talk about that anymore. But the one that jumped out for different reasons, not for it goes bad, is Glee. I never finished it after the quarterback. I just couldn't do it.
Highlight's not the right word, but that's the high point, I think, of the series, and it very much becomes a different series after that. So I could completely understand why.
I mean, I think there's celebrity deaths. Him dying was, considering what that show is as well, it was remarkably hard. And the thought of it carrying on without him, which is fine. I've never seen the end of it, so when I do watch it back one day, I think that is the one I'm gonna have to power through and just get it sorted out and just get it finished. But there has been things like we mentioned earlier, Supergirl. I never watched season 2 Stargirl. Didn't do it. I enjoyed the first one, but there was so much of it, and it had got so bad, all of it. I never watched the end of The Flash. I just give up. I just tapped out. I thought, I can't do this anymore. Legends of Tomorrow, same. It all.
That was probably the best one of the lot, to be honest, was Legends. Because at that point, it just got to the point where every episode became just like standalone, pretty much. It was just, this week we're in New Orleans in the 1960s. This week we're in 1800s Texas. And they just knew that they couldn't do a story across the whole of the series. So they just sort of split it up into individuals. And it worked better, because you are right. The whole Arrowverse fucking died a death, to be honest, at that point.
Well, after what happened to Oliver, that was for me, that kind of...
That at the end.
That was it. It completed it, and then he carried on afterwards, and he was never really the same. And I finished Supergirl because I loved that. But even what came afterwards, like Superman and Lois, which I actually really enjoy. It's on iPlayer now, so I've got no excuse to find it special ways to watch it. Where I've got to episode 8 of season 2, and I just thought, well, I just can't be arsed. And I used to love all that stuff. I used to love the Arrowverse. I mean, there was watching 3 or 4 episodes of it every week of the different shows, and it was brilliant. And that, until it wasn't, and it ruined it all for me.
Yeah, because we used to talk about it pretty much every day. Like, Tuesday was Arrow, and then it was Wednesday was Legends, wasn't it? And then Thursday was The Flash, and we used to speak about it pretty much every day at the time. And yeah, it almost got too big for its boots as well, I think, at one point, especially when they started to bring in fucking Batwoman, which was just awful. Terrible show. But I'm the same like with Superman and Lois, which I enjoyed, and I don't dislike it now. And I've been halfway through season 3 for fucking months at this point. Just got no interest in going back and watching it. I did finish Stargirl, which was fine, but I knew that it was ending after season 2, so I just powered through. The only one that's worth a watch is Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is really good, and it doesn't tie into the Arrowverse really, so you can just play on with that one. You'd probably get a kick out of that, actually. It's quite good, silly fun, that one is. My answer came to me immediately because the answer is Scrubs. Because season 9 should not exist as Scrubs. So at the end of season 8, it ties everything up very nicely into a bow. JD leaves the hospital for the final time. He sees all the ghosts and memories of the last 8 years of his residency there. It's a perfect ending to a show. And I don't take that phrase lightly. It is perfect how it ends. I cry every time. And I remember that the first time it happened, I was so moved. Oh, this is just beautiful. This is so well done. And then it came back, and I'm like, hang on. How can you bring this back as Scrubs season 9, episode 1? And JD's in it. He's now playing like a lecturer. He's not even really a doctor. He's wearing a like a tweed jacket with the patches, like he's a stereotypical lecturer. He makes that joke. That's sort of the point of it. Like it doesn't work. And they shift the focus. JD's in it. And JD and Turk are still the best thing in it, even though they're pretty much background characters. And it moves to Kerry Bishé, who I really like, Eliza Coupe, who I really like, and Dave Franco, who I really hate. And that's why I hate Dave Franco, that and Alison Brie. But Dave Franco, the first thing I ever saw him in was Scrubs season 9, where he played this terrible character who wasn't funny, who just was utterly grating, and I can't see him as anything other than Cole. He's Cole in pretty much everything, apart from the film that the exception that proves the rule is the film based on The Room, The Disaster Artist. But Dave Franco, like, he's just ruined that series for me. He's symbolic of that show going to shit in season 9. If they'd have come back and called it Scrubs The Interns, fine, it's a different show. I can let that go, I don't need to. But if you're doing a rewatch of Scrubs, like, it has to stop at season 8, because season 9 is not what Scrubs is.
You're describing like Saved by the Bell, the new class there, where Screech is coming back and he's still there, he's a different character.
Yeah, it sort of is.
But that could have worked.
Yeah, that did. I mean, I quite enjoyed most incarnations of Saved by the Bell, even the college years, which most people hated, but I quite enjoyed. But yeah, Scrubs season 9, it's terrible. So I listened to the Scrubs rewatch podcast with Zach and Donald doing it, and they've now got to season 9. And like, even they can't say anything nice about it because it is awful. There's nothing funny. They're just sort of like skimming through it because they just want to get to the end of it at this point. And that's two people who were even in those episodes, and they're just like, no, this doesn't work, and I don't understand what they're doing. It's that bad. Yeah. So yeah, Scrubs immediately sprang to mind for me. It was the obvious answer. I will do my question next, which is, what is the best British set horror? Stu?
There was a few on here that Alien was made here, wasn't it? It's set in space, but it doesn't say what kind of space. Can we say it's above Britain?
I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch. But
But
no point are they on Earth, are they? So yeah, no, I don't think we can get that one issue.
No, but we don't need to anyway, because there's two. I mean, I did think of Last Night in Soho because I typed it in British horror and it came up, and I thought, it's not really, not for me anyway. But the obvious answer is Host.
Which one's Host? Oh, I've completely blanked. Which one?
The one that was made in COVID over.
Oh shit! Of course. Sorry, I had the hole stuck in my head. The one with Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of that, and I was like, that's not right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. God, yeah, what a great film that is. Yeah, I'd completely blanked on that one. That really should have been my answer, to be fair, but...
I mean, the further way in which we talked about it at the time, I mean, there's that and the other one, The Descent, just because of how even if I never used to be scared of confined spaces, but like, you get your arm trapped in something now, Oh, you didn't taking your hoodie off? So,
Yeah.
But our host is it still an iPlayer? It was for ages.
Yeah, he was. I don't know if he still is. I haven't looked for a while, to be honest. But yeah, that's a great show, that is.
Host is available on. Oh no, it's to rent on Apple and something else called Stream.
Okay. He might be on Shudder still, because I know it was a Shudder exclusive. Whether or not it's still on there, I'm not 100%
Oh no, it's on Prime.
Prime, right? Okay, yeah, tremendous film. Okay. Have you ever seen The Boys from County Hell?
No, there was a lot of films out here that I've never heard of or never seen or never heard anyone talk about.
The Boys from County Hell, I think you'd enjoy that. It's more, it's not funny, but there are like a comedic elements to it, and it's got. Have you watched Derry Girls?
Yeah.
Paula, the dim one out of the group.
Yeah.
So it's set in Ireland, so you shouldn't be in this list. But
well, they know what they are.
They should rejoin. And so we get a United Ireland, the banner of King Charles, whatever. But like British Isles films, you'd enjoy that. You'd get a kick out of that show. I think there's basically an Irish vampire comes back. It's not comedy, but there are comedic elements to it. You check that one out, Stu. I think you'd enjoy it.
I mean, the sound of an Irish vampire is in itself hilarious.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not at the Euros, are they? So we've got to entertain the Irish somehow.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, so the film I've gone for 28 Days Later.
Okay.
The Danny 2002.
Hello.
I hadn't realised it was 22 years old at this point. And like we're just looking at starting the ball rolling on 28 years later, aren't we? It's the next one. I think is it Jodie Comer's going to be in it. I do like Jodie Comer, so I'm excited for that one. But yeah, what a tremendous film that was. I went in not knowing much about it. I remember at the time. And Cillian Murphy just was fantastic. And we had Christopher Eccleston in it as well, who I probably didn't know for much. But that was a performance from him that he was just like these big, shouting, nasty bollocks. He was fantastic in it. And he's become an actor who I will give a chance in pretty much any role because he's always really good. Both of them, both him and Cillian, are tremendous. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen with 28 years later, especially if Cillian is reprising his role. So yeah, I think that's a good. I like Danny Boyle as a director as well. I think I can't actually think of any films that Danny Boyle's done which I haven't really enjoyed. I think he's an all-round really good. Written by Alex Garland, another one who I know he's gone on to do pretty good directing work, but he doesn't seem to have a miss in his bag. So yeah, tremendous film. So 28 Days Later for me was great. Had some really good scares, and it was a really inventive way of sort of changing zombies to make them fit our world a little bit better, so that they could move quickly. They weren't just shambling along like they are in your old school George Romero movies. A bit like, because I think that must have come out around the same time as the Dawn of the Dead remake, which is a film, in spite of it being that fucking no-hoper of a director, I do think that's his best work. Mostly because he gives that update to zombies, which I think transforms the game and makes zombies a much more modern villain again. It gives them that new lease of life, ironically. So yeah, I think perfect. The other film that I wanted to mention off the back of the Moor, have you ever seen Saint Maud?
Oh yeah.
I like Saint Maud. I thought that was a good film.
Oh, sure, we talked about that. We talked about that before. I'm sure we have.
Couldn't remember, but I thought that was really interesting. It's sort of pseudo-religious, folksy English bollocks, basically. Yeah, really good. There's a lot of eeriness to it without many outright scares. The ending is a bit of a kick in the bollocks, but it's so well produced that it's wonderful. Like it entices you in and then explodes in your face sort of thing at the end. I think how it does it, and it works so well. Such a great film. I think it's one of the the best films of the 2020s for horror. So yeah, the Saint Maud would probably be one of my second honourable mentions on this one. That was tremendous.
I mean, we could mention, he never ever gets mentioned in the same thing, but 28 weeks later, he's fine.
You know, I've only seen half of it. I mean, admittedly, it was the second half, but for whatever reason, I never got round to seeing it in the cinema, and I've just never put it on TV. And I was round a mate's house, and they were watching it, or their brother was watching it rather. And I picked it up halfway through, and I thought, "Oh, this is all right. I wouldn't mind actually sitting down and watching it." But I've never actually, sat down and watched the whole thing.
Well, you'll watch it when the next one comes out anyway. But I liked it. It was fine. It just suffered again because the first one was so good.
It's Jeremy Renner, isn't it? It's the 28 weeks later, if I remember rightly. Yeah, Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne. I do like Rose Byrne. Oh, and Robert Carlyle's in it. Yeah, I will give that a watch. Harold Perrineau for all the Lost fans out there. Matt. Idris Elba as well, Imogen Poots. But obviously, it's not Danny Boyle, is it? Which seems a bit odd to have then moved the... Isn't it more of an action-y film than it is?
Yeah, it's Aliens to Alien.
Right, okay.
You know what? What's Harold Perrineau, talking about him? He did a series last year, and a horror series. Again, he's got a bit niche for this stuff. From rings a bell.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about that when it was going out, but I never really paid much attention to it.
I saw the first episode. He was one of them. I saw the first one, and then I couldn't find the second and never went back to it. That's what needs to be on the list, and reminded me of that. Because one of the
travel the mystery of a city in the middle of USA that imprisons everyone who enters. As the residents struggle to maintain a sense of normality and seek a way out, they must also survive the threats of the surrounding forest. Sounds all right, that does. 30 episodes.
Still on?
Oh, yeah.
What's it?
Season 3 is due out, I presume, at some point this year, then.
MGM Plus, that's on. That's it. I don't even know that was a thing.
That's one of the Amazon Prime add-ons.
Okay. That's probably why I couldn't find it then. If it was one of them things for the Prime just put out, and then as like when they did for they've done it for a few things where they've put it on normal and then put stuff on Freevee.
Yeah,
to run. So that's my alternative means it is then.
Yeah, so there's only 20 episodes of that then to catch up on before the new season. That's doable, I suppose, over the summer. Lovely. Stu, your question next, please.
I mean, it seems like people are starting to do other things over the summer, which is watch shit things. And I went on Netflix, just as you do, because I finished The Boys season 1. I didn't want to jump straight into season 2. I thought, well, there's always something on there that just appears, and there's that Wembley documentary, and after seeing the chaos at the Champions League final last, like 50 arrests again. They're just shit, are they? I mean, how can you have a pissing vote of 3 minutes into the game? Well, we've both been to Wembley. I don't know how you jump that.
No.
It's impossible. Unless you're literally running down the stairs and straight onto the pitch, but you shouldn't be able to do that. But whatever. So I went on Netflix, and number 1 film in the UK is Atlas. And people have been shitting on this film. A few people who I know who've seen it didn't enjoy it and said it was boring and shit. So not a bad film in a good way.
Yeah.
And at number 2 at the time was Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. And after how much I hated the first one, I thought, well, I've started now, so I'll finish. Didn't happen, did it? I lasted 20 minutes. I couldn't do it to myself. I thought, I can't be doing this again.
It was that bad?
I couldn't do it. I know how I ranted and raved before, well, just after Christmas, how Part 1 was the worst thing I saw last year because it made me angry. I don't know. if this was because it was bringing me back again, and it's some kind of PTSD, or it's just that bad. Maybe I just need to erase the whole thing from my head and just go in fresh and watch them back to back properly. Because what I'd normally do with these things, if it's 2 parts, I'll watch the first one again just to refresh myself. I thought, I ain't doing that. Not a chance. It's still relatively fresh in my mind, even though I don't remember any character names or vaguely anything that happened. And then I went into this. I thought, yeah, this is why I didn't watch it again, because I don't know. I'm baffled by it all. I'm just completely baffled by it all. But people watch it and they love it. And if it gets released in the cinema, like Morbius did, and the whole thing about Morbius, and it was re-released, and then it came to Netflix, and it was number 1 on Netflix for ages and ages. So why are people loving shit films on streaming platforms? Because it happens on Prime as well. You see your films that have been panned in the cinema, and then you get them on streaming. Top of the chart. Why?
I think, like, in part, stuff like Atlas and Rebel Moon, whatever, Netflix will push that on their algorithm. Even if it's got fucking 0 views, they will push it as a top film because they've spent a lot of money on it and they want people to watch their shit. And let's be honest, a lot of the Netflix originals generally err on the side of being terrible. Even the good ones aren't brilliant most of the time. Like, they don't have a track record of putting out quality films. I'd say for 90% of the year. They'd get some hits when it comes to Oscar season. I'll give them their dues there, but that's the exception rather than the rule, I find, with Netflix. So they push their own films just to try and get eyes on them, just to justify their existence, I think. When it comes to stuff like, and this is going to tie into like the next couple of weeks of this podcast, where we're going to be looking at the downfall of in-person viewing in the cinema. I don't think people want to see Madam Web in a cinema when everyone and their dog has said this might be the worst film that's ever been made. Because, like, would you willingly pay money to go and see? We saw it, but we didn't pay anything. I mean, we pay our monthly subscription, but there was nothing else to watch that week. And I watch at least one film a week in the cinema pretty much. So it was just a case of there was a hole to be filled. I will fill Madame Web's hole, sort of thing. That was it. That. So I get it, but if you're paying your hard-earned money, do you want to pay for something that is potentially not even so bad it's good? It could just be Atlas. It could just be the most boring shit you've ever seen, and you walk out of it, you've forgotten it, you've got nothing to talk about. Do you want to do that? Probably not. But if it's on Netflix, you can see for yourself how bad it is. And all you're paying there is, I mean, you're paying your monthly subscription, but you're paying with your time, realistically, because you're still going to have Netflix anyway. It's no skin off your nose other than the 190 minutes, whatever it is, to watch that film. So I think, in part, that is why a lot of these terrible films get watched when they get bought by Netflix, just so people can join in the conversation, albeit at a later date. I think that's the only thing that makes sense, because why would you watch that film? Other than us kind of weirdos who go and see anything. I think that is what it is. And it's their algorithm pushing their shit as well, I think, is why it looks popular.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the reason, because these things appear, and what is it? That's the only on Netflix section, but top TV programs in the UK. Eric? No idea.
That's the Benedict Cumberbatch puppeteer thing. It's supposed to be pretty good.
Oh, okay. Not a bad example. Dancing for the Devil, Bridgerton, no. Geek Girl, Young Sheldon, Rich House Poor House, Sherlock Holmes' Finest.
I don't know what that is shit.
Oh, come on. It's basically, it's Come Dine With Me, but for poor people. So
right.
So they basically it's exactly what it sounds like. They get one rich family and one poor family. They swap houses and lifestyles for a week.
Okay.
So the poor ones who normally live in a council estate with like sofas in the street, like Benefit Street was, they obviously get to live the life of luxury, and they don't really swap jobs because that's impossible.
Yeah.
But as much as is doable, they'll live the life that the other side will live, and they have the same budget that they normally spend. So they go in with mental amounts, and then you get the rich, the toffs normally put in account in that sofa-ridden council estate with 80 quid a week to live on and do the activities that they normally do. It's one of these things where it obviously started off as a proper social experiment, and then it just gets exploitative and it's crazy.
Poverty porn.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it's normally the poorer ones always come out on top, always, because they're shown to be normal people. And there's a few special episodes where, I haven't watched them all. There's loads of them. I don't know how many the series are on there. I presume it's only six seasons of it. But again, an hour each. But so the Elwells and Leckenby first one, so them families swap houses and lives. That's how it's built. But the vast majority of them, they get on fine, they adapt. There's certain episodes where the rich ones lose their shit and they can't cope, they can't do it anymore, and there's a couple that storm off, that they've had enough and they can't cope anymore. There's a couple that actually did remain friends afterwards that you find out later. Just there was catch-up scene. I don't know if they're on there yet. I looked deeply enough. But they did like the revisit or something like that years later, where they went back and just to see how and they'd like swap contact details, and because they always meet up at the end of the week as well to discuss their lives and how they felt the week. So you have got some that are like special cases.
Sounds interesting.
But again, it's poverty porn. It's number 6. Boy in London, which is the next on the list. Baby Reindeer 8. One Punch Man 9, and the Ashley Madison. I'll watch that as well. Going back from earlier, Sex, Lies, and Scandal. Unreal.
I watched the Dancing to the Devil one that you mentioned. I watched the first 2 episodes. It was shit. Like Netflix have got such a hit and miss ratio when it comes to these documentaries, haven't they? They can sometimes be really good, but they do get some stinkers out there as well. It's like someone comes to them with an idea and they just green light it immediately without looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll leave that there then. And after the break, we will be reviewing Nicolas Cage's Peggy Sue Got Married. Just in case you're not joining us after the break, just to let you know, for the rest of the month, we will be looking at the current downfall of cinema. And then the week after, I think we'll have a look at what improvements can be made by cinema chains to get people back in. Also, that week, we'll be doing a throwback film. Because we're doing about cinema, I thought, why not do a film which is set in a cinema? And we'll make it a horror as well, because why not? So we'll be watching 2014's The Last Showing. And then at the end of the month, we'll be having a games cast, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back for the final part. Peggy Sue Got Married. Stu, had you seen this one before?
Never.
Neither.
Not even glimpsed it. I know it's one of Tara's favourite films, and because we broke her laptop, she can't come on anymore to talk about it. But yeah, she was literally the only person I've ever heard talk about this film. I didn't know where it was. No idea. Didn't even know the Cage was in it until it was suggested, which was never a good sign. But yeah, I went in completely blind.
Yeah, I mean, all I knew about this film was that Nick Cage is in it and he does a silly voice, and that's all I knew about this movie. So from that, I assumed he was like a sidekick to the main handsome hunk, because I thought he's playing some kind of weedy idiot who puts on a silly voice. That was my preconceptions of this film, and it's not really, because he's the second, like the co-lead almost to it, I think. Obviously, the main is Kathleen Turner in this movie, but it's her and Nick Cage. They are married in the future, and then she falls into a coma, we think, and she goes back in time to her adolescence, to her high school years, before she marries Nick Cage, just when they're dating. I got to admit, I had high hopes for this film, purely because of just sort of hearing through the grapevine of Peggy Sue Got Married being a good film. No one ever really telling me anything about it. I didn't know this was going to be a time travel film. I knew nothing other than, I think I'm going to enjoy this. It's Francis Ford Coppola. It's probably going to be decent. I feel like I was a little bit let down, if I'm honest. It was just fine.
Yeah. I wasn't let down because I didn't know what to expect, really. What was my exact words that I used? So I told her that we were watching it. I said it was pretty good, to be fair. I enjoyed it. It's nowhere near any top 10, top 20 of his that we've watched.
Bang in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was very, very amusing. I suppose that's humorous in a kind of David Letterman way, where it's never going to be top billing. It's not nowhere near the worst thing you'll see. But I sat there and giggled a few times, smirked, and had a good time watching it. I enjoyed myself. And that's just Kathleen Turner's voice. Something about the gravelliness. Oh,
yeah, he does something to a young man, doesn't it? That, yeah.
So almost like a female Sean Dyche, really. But she's another one that you never. I can't remember seeing her in a bad thing. Really.
Yeah, she's a solid actor who's been around forever and a day and always done the job.
Yeah, but we've seen when we talked about it literally last week, time travel stuff, and it doesn't always work. And we talked about like body swap stuff, like Big and Freaky Friday and things like that, which this kind of was, but we're just with herself. And I did like that, how they just kept her as her, but everyone else, for everyone else, she was the teenage version of herself. So it added the kind of nonsense to it all, especially when she was drinking and that whole madness of her dad.
I did laugh at that when she comes back home and then just cracks open a bottle of vodka or whiskey or whatever it was. That did make me chuckle. Because I'm sure she's in her 30s at this point.
Yeah, she's got to be.
Yeah, so it was 86 this was released and she was born in 52. So yeah, she was in her 30s at this point. So it could have looked really jarring, I think, having grown up against all these kids. But I don't think she looked like a 30-year-old. Not like, when you watch anything on American TV where you have 30-year-olds playing kids now. It's quite obvious. She just looked like she might have been early 20s, whereas everyone else around her was late teens. So it wasn't that jarring, but yeah.
I did, but that was the thing, because I had no idea what it was. I did wonder why Cage's hair was grey.
The makeup on Nick Cage in the later years was horrific. He didn't look like he'd aged. He just looked like he'd been in a fight or something. He just looked in bad nick. That was all it was.
And then you look around at the other people there, and I thought, okay, there's very minor prosthetic use, maybe. Mainly it's just a bit of hair makeup, but is that Jim Carrey? And they turned out to be, he was Jim Carrey, which playing a relatively straight role as well, which is, especially at that time, very odd.
Yeah. I didn't know Jim Carrey existed before Earth Girls Are Easy, I think was the first film I remember of his, which I think was might have been 91, 92, something like that. So I remember Ace Ventura Pet Detective, that was the first big film of his, which was 94. But I was quite surprised to see him in this. I think Earth Girls Are Easy. So
I haven't seen that one.
Maybe it's not. I can't remember. I thought he was in that, but yeah, Earth Girls Are Easy, 88.
Oh.
So I remember seeing that on VHS. You might recognise the image of it because he plays one of the three aliens, and they're all sort of just coloured in different colour fur. It's really weird. It's not funny. It's just shit, to be perfectly honest. But
Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, what is this?
yeah, it's terrible. It's dog shit. I might have to watch it again.
Damon Wayans? How can this be bad?
Mike McKean's in it as well. Like, that's a solid cast. I probably haven't seen this since the early 90s when I rented it from the local spa. So maybe my memory isn't quite what it was. Julian Temple directed it. Fucking hell. Maybe we need to do that for a back film one week. Oh. But yeah, it was a nice surprise to see Jim Carrey because, like I said, I don't really remember him existing before he became like big Jim Carrey. So it was quite nice to see, and it was a very straight role. He was, I should say, humorous throughout, but he wasn't the Jim Carrey we know, the rubber face maniac that he is in pretty much everything else since the mid-90s. So that was quite a nice surprise to see him in it.
Yeah, because all of them, Ace Ventura, both of them, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, I watched them all on video, so I don't know which one I watched first because I never really used to go to the cinema that often then. So they were all very much around about the same time. So it's secondary school, so he would have been like 95, 96. So I could have watched them in any order. But having no, obviously we've seen him in serious roles later on, but it was just such a like out of body experience watching him being normal at that age.
Yeah. Because even his more dramatic, quote unquote, straight roles aren't really straight roles. Like, he's still got that wiry energy that you associate with Jim Carrey. And he didn't really have that in this. He was just a common or garden human being almost. So it was weird to see it. Like, he looked like Jim Carrey, but he didn't act like Jim Carrey, which was really bizarre.
It was Cage acting more like Jim Carrey. Maybe that's where the influence came from. Maybe this is a start.
Potentially. But the one thing that I got from this, again, is that FOMO of we're never going to get a Nick Cage musical film.
No, I don't know.
Like, how many times have we seen him sing in movies now? And he's got a decent voice on him. Like, I feel like, I'm sure Matt said before that we should get a Nick Cage as Elvis Presley. It would have been perfect. And this just made me want that even more, and we're just never going to get it, are we?
No. Unless maybe it just needs someone to pitch it to him.
Like, we are the men for that job.
Yeah, like a kind of like how he just went and did Willy's Wonderland for no reason at all. Maybe that's all it takes. That someone watches it. Look at his track record of stuff in it, and he's that was what, especially when he was doing the soul stuff later on in the film.
Really good.
Yeah, I thought this has got no right being like it is. I mean, the other stuff you kind of expect because he's kind of hamming it up 50s style. But the R&B thing I thought that was genuinely really good singing.
Like, when you think of some of the other actors who've released albums, like William Shatner's and Bruce Willis's, they are awful. Like, was it The Return of Bruno is the Bruce Willis album? It's really not. It's not listenable. I'll be honest. It's shocking. And Nick Cage has got the pipes to pull this off. If we're never going to get a film, he should at least give us an album, I think. An album of his greatest hits.
I mean, he did a series on Netflix about swearing, so nothing is beyond him.
No. Yeah, given the right chance, I reckon he probably would give it a whirl. So give me a good, bad and crazy on this, please, Stu.
I mean, the crazy straight away. That the choice to speak like that didn't make any sense.
I don't get it. That's the voice of Screech. That's not the voice of Zach, is it? And he's supposed to be Zach.
And you look at it and you think, well, the vast majority of this film is in the past. So why don't you use your normal voice in the past, and then the very brief scenes in the present, put a deeper voice on or put a slightly different weary accent on or something like that. Not the other way around. It's just strange. Bad. The hype, maybe. And that's not to do with the film, though, is it? It's not the film's fault that it's been hyped to death and that people talking about it like it is. But I couldn't really say that a bad thing about it. It was just very meh. It was just very enjoyable meh.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a Sunday film. That's what it was to me. Which again is a good thing sometimes, but they're good. I think they're good. They handled it really well. The past stuff and how, like you should say, we've seen it many, many times, but like the stuff about mom and what did they use? Oh yeah, because she bumped her head. She'd lost blood. That's why she was acting so strange. And how things were just, because she's lost a bit of blood, so her personality completely changes. And just the absurdity of it all just worked for this, and you didn't need to stretch your thinking, well, this is absurd, because it didn't matter. It just worked. And I thought we've seen bad time travel films. We've seen good ones like Hot Tub Time Machine, and then we've seen things like this, which kind of, it's sweet in a way. And then you have the stuff with the book and like the Under the Stars and all that kind of thing. And you think, was it all a dream? Or had she just forgot? Who knows? I just thought it was really nice. It was a really nice film to watch. And that was a good thing. I can't slag it off for something that it's not. So I'm going to pass on the bad.
Okay, that's fair. I sort of struggle with both the good and the bad because it was just fine. Like, I pretty much agree with you. It was just a fine film. There was nothing I thought was truly outstanding. There was nothing I thought was truly terrible. On the good side, like, I thought when they went back into the 60s I think it was the 60s set, when they were back in their youth, I thought like the costume design and settings and everything that I thought looked really good. Like it looked like, it sort of reminded me of Back to the Future, obviously, with the time travel. It looked sort of authentic. Everything about it gave an air of authenticity that worked really well. So I think that's a big plus for me. On the negative side, I don't feel like there was any sort of connection really between Kathleen Turner and Nick Cage.
None, not at all.
Like there was no real chemistry there. One of them was miscast, maybe both of them, if I'm being perfectly honest. But you could tell, like, part of my craze is the fact that they fucking hated each other. Or she hated him because she didn't like that accent. She didn't understand it. And she wouldn't say to him because you can't tell another actor what to do. But I feel like that animosity off screen was brought onto screen personally. And it didn't... The fact that they still end up with each other at the end was really bizarre. That's my issue with it, I think, is that I didn't buy into the lead couple. And I think that you really have to get the most out of it.
I think she was, because you saw it at the start where, like, when he turns up and she's like hiding from him, and he's obviously ran off with a younger model, by the sense, and you think, well, she's obviously never got over him. That's what I got from it at the start.
Yeah,
you could see she'd never got over him, and then the whole, did she go back? Was it all a dream? Whatever. That sequence of that finding herself and finding him again, and then realising, he's still there all along, even though she's come back to the time where he's been a twat and he's left her for someone else. That is it's a bit far-fetched, even for a time travel film, when he hasn't actually done anything. Or has he? Or has her going back changed him? Who knows? Butterfly. But yeah, it's just what it is, isn't it? You can't go timey-wimey on this one.
No. But yeah, that was my craze. The other thing I had, apparently this is Kathleen Turner's only Oscar-nominated performance. I didn't think she was anything special, if I'm honest. Whether or not that was a terrible year, I don't know. But there was nothing in that performance that made me think that is one of the best performances you'll see. It was adequate. I mean, maybe I'm being harsh there, I don't know. But yeah, this film didn't grab me quite like I'd hoped it was going to. So, yeah.
Well, you could put in there, that was crazy. If you think about it, this when you're saying about how it was like period accurate and stuff, if you made that now and talking about 25 years, that had only been 1989, that wouldn't be that hard to recreate.
Yeah, that's true. Because all of those people would pretty much have been alive during that period, so it probably isn't that big a leap to remember those days for them. So I'm guessing for the did you enjoy this film, Stu, it's a yes from you. Would you recommend it to folks?
Probably, only specifics. Certain people who like a bit of an 80s rom-com, which is kind of what it is, really. I'd say, yeah, give it a go if you haven't already, which most of them have. But yeah, if you did it on a binary good or bad, then yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like if you put a gun to my head, I'd say it's on the good side of the scales, but it's closer to the middle than it is to the far reaches. It was mostly fine, definitely watchable. We've seen a lot worse, haven't we? Let's be perfectly honest. We have seen better. I think we've seen better Nick Cage rom-coms in the 80s as well, to be honest. The one with Sarah Jessica Parker that I can't quite remember the title of. I remember quite enjoying that one. That one immediately springs to mind for me, even though I can't remember the bloody name of it. It's the one where they go on some island randomly. Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What the fuck was it called? Honeymoon in Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's 1992. Came just after Xander Lee. Fucking, I loved Xander Lee. Yeah. Hollywood in Vegas. I feel like I'd push people towards that a little bit more if you wanted a Nick Cage rom-com, personally. But I wouldn't say to someone, don't watch Peggy Sue. It's a watchable film. It's just not one I would particularly push people towards, I think.
Yes.
So was Cage good or bad in this one? It's a tough one, that is, isn't it? Tough one.
I mean, even though his voice was ridiculous, his character was kind of believable. It's kind of like what we think Americana of the 60s was. That fits what that character was. How accurate that is, I ain't got a fucking clue. How do we know? But if you take the silly voice away, he's a good singer and he has got some charisma about him, even though he's still playing a bellend again. Yeah. Benefit of the doubt, just about. Good scale.
Yeah, I feel like he was good. I feel like you either need to get rid of him or Kathleen Turner, though. One or the other's got to go in this film for this film to be better. Like, they don't work together. They both give two independently good or decent performances, which doesn't work when they don't have that connective tissue together. I'm going to say he's good, but I also wouldn't cast him in this film if you're having Kathleen Turner as your lead. So, I don't know. Make of that what you will. So the final one then, if you enjoyed Peggy Sue Got Married, you may also like... Finish that sentence, Stu.
I mean, all I could think of afterwards was Back to the Future, and you already mentioned it, and it's the obvious answer.
Really is, isn't it? It's the only one that feels like it's a direct tie-in to this type of film.
Yeah, you've got the same time periods, obviously. Similar kind of thing about seeing your parents for the first time, even though in a different situation. I don't think we might put that on a future question cast. That's never been brought up, that dilemma. Yeah, it's got to be Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was trying to think out of the box for like an unconventional themed rom-com. So I've gone with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Well,
Like that's one that spans the multiverse, isn't it, rather than time specifically. But I think you've got the core of the romance that keeps everything tied together, which is what I think this film tries to do. So I think that if you liked this, you'd probably like Everything Everywhere. I mean, Everything Everywhere. I think anyone would like that film anyway, because I think it's just a very, very good, all-round movie, to be perfectly honest. Right, so I've told you all what we'll be doing for the rest of the month, so please make sure that you're subscribed on whatever podcatcher that you're listening to us on so that you don't miss an episode. cagefightingpod@gmail.com for any emails, and at cagefightingpod on the socials. And for this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. If you like Peggy Sue Got Married, tell us about the film next time, please.
And it's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.